the first concert that we played in 2003 when we came there was organized at the city Mitrovica city's cultural center, which was now on the Albanian side, and which had its difficulties in organization, because how do you bring the Serbs from the Serbian side into the Albanian side? So they had to build a section.
How do you protect them?
How do you protect them, and how do you get them there? And so they bussed in people from Serbian enclaves throughout Kosovo, and then also they built on the bridge that the UN rebuilt after it had been devastated in the war. In this middle section they built an addition, and this sort of like steps that then went to a little floating island, and from there a small little bridge that went straight into the cultural center from a separate side door. And then the Albanians came from their main entrance, where the main entrance of the cultural center was. And what was so interesting is once they got into the big room, then they were all together, and that was the first time that they tried that. And there was a lot of criticism, there was a lot of fear. They thought, it was not sure that it will work, and of course some of the military people were even against it. We found out later that they had even vouched against this. They were not into this idea because they needed a lot of security. It was very costly. And then others were like, no, we have to, using culture as a means of bringing peace, we have to, it's worked before, and we should do this. So they made it happen. And what was so great for us is once at the beginning there were clear lines, even in the room, clear lines of separation. The Serbians went on one side of the room and the Albanians went on the other side of the room. But once the music started, and people started to relax, by half an hour into the music, people were hugging each other. People from both sides were hugging each other, suddenly talking to each other, because the music kind of created also a neutral zone, a zone away from, it was noise and whatever. People started feeling more comfortable as it was reaching their souls and their hearts, and what music does. And they started talking to each other and hugging each other and crying, and we were like witness to that, like as we were playing the songs, we were seeing that. And after that experience, it gave us the chills. And at one point, actually, it was an amazing experience. There was an electrical cut, and now they knew that this might happen, as happens in these war zones, that there's no electricity. So there was this quick panic as to, oh my God, this could be like this could be a sabotage. This could be a threat. This could be now there could be killing happening. Any sorts of these military situations. Now all this we find out also only afterwards. Like we just see it as, oh, electrical cut. Oh, no problem. But when it cut, the tensions in that room, I will never forget what happened in those. It wasn't for long because they had the generator. The generator kicked in pretty fast, like within half a minute or so. But in that half a minute, it was a long time, and it was so tense. It was
for the security,
they
freaked.
They freaked, and then they had to do we immediately continued playing because they told us continue as soon as the electrical situation was good, and then we saw the military go through all the aisles with this bomb checking equipment, and they were checking like for bombs that in that half a minute could have appeared from nowhere. And you could see we started to realize the reality we were in. And then again, like 15 minutes into that part of the show, everybody started relaxing and dancing. And by the end of the night, everybody was dancing together. There was no more separation at all. It was just one big group. And that's when we came out like totally amazed at the power of music that it really has, because we witness it. It was amazing because with music, if you can inspire them to work towards peace and forgiveness in their situation, which is the only way peace will come about, because the stories of trauma exist on both sides.
And it always sounds, when in our days, when you bring up music as a form of change, and in these kind of areas, in these situations where you're dealing with multinational peacekeeping forces, military, so you hold the guns, you separate the two factions, and you just say, well, how long are you going to do this? It's essentially, it's like having two pit bulls and you hold them back, but at one point you're going to have to let go. What was very interesting for us is after these series of concerts, how do you measure the success of these concerts? Well, we had the head of the French sector, which we were playing, of NATO. I forgot the general's name, but he approached us and he said, you know, ironically, it was so beautiful watching you guys because you obviously don't, you can see you're not experienced with war. But he says, I've been in this zone for 4 years, using all means of events to promote peace. And he goes, your concert was, he goes, I tell you this face to face, was the most successful event and peaceful event we've had, where we had this many amount. I think it was about 200 people from each side actually in the same area. Yeah, allowed.
The first one was literally in the same room.
So it gave us it was our first sort of proof, you know, that music can promote peace. It's
you know, as a musician, from where we're coming, we're not trying to find sides. For us, it's all about having our music work towards a peace and affecting these people somehow into coming to some sort of, you know, space where they can find forgiveness for whatever the story is. And because the stories are so traumatic that even, I must admit, I tell you honestly, I even sometimes block, I go into a little bit of a shock where I hear so many hard stories and you just kind of block, and everything becomes blurry, and you don't even, you're hearing them but they're hard to even though you hear the words, you can't even imagine it, because, you know, we're coming from a whole different experience. And
a perfect example of in 2008 we were in Mesot, Thailand, and we played the political prisoners house in Mesot, which it was a house which was a center for tortured political prisoners that escaped Burma, that were basically in jail, tortured, and they make their way out of Burma, and it's like a rehabilitation center for them to heal and just get to a normal living, try to get back to a normal living situation. And we set up right in the house and started playing. And I remember there was one gentleman who we passed out some percussion instruments and a shaker, and he was smiling and playing, but he was so offbeat that I was like, this is actually incredible. It's amazing. He was so off rhythm that he was throwing the whole, like, literally we're focusing to stay in rhythm, and on top of it was a loud shaker. So I was like, wow, this is incredible. And it was sort of, battling forces to keep the band tight. And after the show, he came up and he gave us a hug, and I realized, oh my God, he's deaf. And it turned out that deaf. And the gentleman later showed us he pulled off his shirt, and his whole entire body from top to bottom was covered in cigarette burns. And he'd been tortured in prison. And here, the music, even though he was deaf, he was dancing in joy, and so feeling it. And that concert, there was not a single sign from where I was standing that showed in any way that he was, had gone through such a traumatic experience in war, basically. And that just gave us, again, another example where music just
also
speaks right to the soul. If famous musicians out there were to use the power and the influence that they have in music and through music, we would have peace on earth. Simple as that. We're doing it on a small scale level. We're just Christopher and I, two individual musicians that go out. We've witnessed firsthand being in battlefields, out there in Serbia, Kosovo, Burmese refugee camp. We playing in these in these conflict zones, we've seen the outcome of what music can have to promote change and peace. Look, we know that the music in the 60s brought an end to the Vietnam War. We know that concerts like Live Aid raised millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to stop famine in Ethiopia.
Music has the power to change the world.
Project Peace on Earth is an opportunity for all musicians to share their heart, to share their voice, to promote peace on earth.